Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at battleships. We're going to be looking at the new Archaeotech weapons on battleships. We're going to be continuing the carrier theme with the strike craft or the the ancient driller drones here. Let's go to the ship design. Let's just have a look here. Alright, let's have a look here. This is the design I've come up with. So we're running with two hangar bays, the ancient driller drones, double point defenses there, two of the ancient nano missile launchers, two whirlwind missile launchers, and we're running with the ancient saturator artillery, which we're going to test out. So the reason I like this design is because the strike craft are going through the armor and hull, doing extra damage to the armor and hull. These guys will go through the shield armor and do damage to the hull as well, so it's complementary with this. This will go for the shields and damage to the armor, so it's somewhat complementary, but it gives it that long range, and you can just keep firing at long range, which is about the only medium weapon with that range. And the ancient saturated artillery will do huge amounts of damage to enemy shields, which sort of works in effect with these guys, which don't do much damage to shields. These guys just go straight through the shields. So these guys will knock the shields down, and then they'll do extra damage to the hull. Now they do 2,006 up to 2,600 damage to the hull. So, but when you combine that with the Architect Engineers, it's plus 33% weapon damage. So it's not 2,600 damage. It's closer to, what did I work out? It's closer to, for the shields, 3,458 damage maximum. That's a lot of damage in one hit. Now add 150% damage to shields. So that's not 50% more damage, which would be about 5,200 damage to shields. It's actually 150% more. So it's like overall 250% damage to shields. So we're talking 8,600 odd damage to shields per shot if it hits, if they have that much shields, which is just huge. Absolutely huge amounts of damage. It'd be around that. I'm not sure whether the 33% multiplier gets added before the 150% shield damage or after the shield damage. I'm assuming it's before, which is what I've calculated. Anyway, regardless of that, it does huge amounts of damage to shields, and then it'll do huge amounts of damage to the hull. Even with plus 25%, you add 33% to 2,600, which is 3,458. Then add 25% on top of that for damage to the hull. So that's just crazy amounts of damage anyway. Now, another feature I'm running with all pulsed armor. So I'm getting the armor hit points and the shield hit points. Now one thing, and now I'm running with shield capacitors as well. I want to show you why. Just carrier computers and standard stuff here. You can see here armor 6,120, shields 3,510. Now pay attention to that number. This is my carrier fleet here, the battleship fleet. Now look at the shield number now when you actually build them. This is the benefit of the Ascension perk, which gives us much more shield hit points. You can see there, right? 2,700 ancient pulsed armor, plus shield hit points 2,700, plus 30% from the shield capacitors, 6,210 shields, 6,120 armor, and then 3,600 hull points. That gives me a total of 5,930 points all up, which is just massive for a battleship. That's a huge amount of shields they've got to get through, huge amounts of armor they've got to get through, and then finally into the hull. So that makes these ships having really great meat shields, basically. So, and because you've got great shields, great armor, it's hard for the enemy to counter that because they can't just go all armor weapons or they can't go all shield weapons because you've got pretty big amounts of both. So the only thing they could really do is try and run, something that goes through both like this, but these weapons do not enough damage. It's going to take a long time to whittle through huge figures like that. So perhaps the focused arc emitter is an option, but if it's going to be very difficult to beat this type of ship design. That much meat, basically meat on your bones for them to fight through. So opposing that, we've got our missile battleship, which is basically a mix of artillery. So we can smash down those shields, and then lots of missiles, lots of whirlwind missiles. So we're going to go through those shields. So bypass a lot of that, and these guys will smash down the shields anyway. Now they'll be straight into the armor, and we'll be trying to smash through that as well. We can see it does minus 50% damage to armor. So we'll be trying a whole bunch of designs out. So you could argue put in a mix of armor weapons. Maybe you could put in the X slot for the Tachyon Lance here, but we're going to be trying a whole variety of designs anyway, just to see how effective this is. We're going for a mix of shields and armor with shield capacitors, simply because with late game tech, with weapons, I think it's better to have a mix of shields and armor, because there's just so many different weapons that can do damage to both. And if you're just stacking armor, well, armor is really great. There's so many late game weapons which can just shred through armor and shields. So I just think it's good to have a nice balance. Could be wrong, but that's the way I'm running it. That's why I'm going to do this test. All right. There's no other leaders, or I haven't got supremacy or anything like that. I'm not running any edicts, so it's just a flat out test. The power difference is because of the Ascension perk. Otherwise, this power difference would be below this guy. Normally, these artillery type designs would flog the carrier battleships. So we'll see how this works out. I don't think it's going to be the case, because this is just too meaty, this design. It's just, got too much power. But first, you see the versus here, 5,200, 5,148. You can see it's got at least 1,000 advantage in armor and shields per ship on these ones, even though they're running 3 capacitors as well. What's the damage? 306. Let's check the damage on this. 365. So there you go. More armor and shields, and more firepower. So it should be a victory to the carrier battleships. Let's find out. They're going to engage. Nope. Now they will.
One of our stations is beset by enemies. Heretic fleet engaged.
They engage at such long ranges now. Strike craft. Strike craft are into it. Opening batteries firing. Still doing lots of damage to shields. That's all the kinetic artillery hammering in there. Lost 1 ship. 2 ships. Lost a lot of shields. Armor's going down. 3 ships. 4 ships. Ooh. 5. Oh. Feel the firepower difference. This is about the worst test I've seen, actually. Normally we didn't lose that many ships. You can see we're still going to win the battle. Yeah, we easily won the battle. But we lost more ships that time. In my other test, we didn't lose as many ships. And I guess that's just RNG with the, opening salvos. So we still won quite comfortably, although we lost 8 ships in that engagement versus 7. So there's still 1 ship difference. So in my other tests I did, it was averaged about 16. This fleet would have about 16 left, so just RNG for you sometimes. But we still won the battle quite comfortably. So this design works really, really well against artillery, which is probably the strongest against carriers, one of the strongest designs, and normally artillery would really wreck this design. So still did a lot of damage. You can still see the shields copped a lot, armor went down a lot, so did a huge amount of damage, but we still won the battle. We've still got 13 or 12 ships in the battle, whereas all their ships were taken out, retreated, disengaged, destroyed. All right, I'll try against a few other battleship designs, and what I might do is I might add some flak into this design, and we'll see how effective that is against the strike craft. Okay, for this battle, I've added in some destroyers with flak to escort our missile battleships, so there's no changes in this design at all. We've got 20 destroyers with double flak and large artillery, so they can contribute to the fight and fight range and pound down those carrier battleships. Mix of shields and armor, afterburners, running picket computers so they can get in between the two fleets and hopefully intercept some of those strike craft that are coming in with the flak. And we'll see how it turns out. We'll see how that makes the battle. Our firepower's gone down a little bit, but not too much. We'll see if that negates enough damage that we can actually win this fight, perhaps. Let's see how it goes.
One of our stations is beset by enemies. Heretic fleet engaged.
Yeah, there we go, destroyers are going out. You can see the flak is all firing there. I've lost a couple of destroyers. Strikecraft are targeting the battleships now. We are going down, losing some battleships there. Just have a look at the damage. I just want to see the damage here. Ancient driller drones, they're getting through. Whirlwind missiles, kinetic artillery. Ancient saturated artillery is starting to get through to the hull now. Yeah, look at the damage to shields. Ancient saturated, 130,000 damage. That's just crazy. Looking like the flak is not making much difference. If anything, it looks like it's worse. Although this is more typical of the results I've seen in my testing. Yeah, you can see it's just going down and down and down. Yep. And that's my point about flak and PD, guys. I've done lots and lots of tests with flak and PD, and it can work with some designs in some niche areas, but you can see here it just detracts too much from the firepower. I added 20, so that's 40 flak batteries firing, level 3 flak batteries, and if anything, the result's worse. We had 12 ships left, battleships last time. We got 5 more this time, although the average I've seen is about 16 in my testing in the battles, adding a bit of RNG here and there. So you can see adding flak in made our battle significantly worse. This fleet did significantly less, just to do enough damage to this fleet, just couldn't kill enough ships fast enough because you're detracting a portion of your firepower. Each of those destroyers only has one kinetic battery, so that's an overall loss of firepower, which just ends up in that type of result. And that's what I mean, like as I was talking about, that I think in larger fleet engagements, when you have multiple fleets, you might have a couple of fleets which are pure strong on flak, and other fleets which are, got your longer range weapons and kinetic batteries and X-slot weapons and stuff. It might work better with a larger fleet engagement depending on how the other enemy fleet's structured. You can see here that even with the high flak, it just wasn't that effective. Right, we'll move on to our next ship design. So for this fight, we've got a mix of shields, smash down the shields with the Giga Cannon, and a mix of armor weapons, anti-armor, lasers, and plasma. We're going to close to medium range, so hopefully we can do lots of damage to their armor, smack their shields down, and hopefully kill a lot of their ships. Get some nice bonuses there to armor and hull damage. Just depends if we can actually get through to their hull. Problem is, this is not as good as the other ancient saturator, which is just better because it does 100% more damage to shields. Just crazy. That's just nuts. 115 damage. It's the same damage, but I guess because they've got the shield multipliers in there. So this is minus 25% to armor. This is minus 75%. So it'll take a bit more to get for armor, but it does more damage to the hull. No changes to this fleet. Mix of armor and shields, capacitors again to boost us up so that we basically as high as we can get. We'll see how this battle goes. See if we can tear them up with our anti-armor weapons.
One of our stations is beset by enemies. Heretic fleet engaged.
closing the range. Getting in the range now. Lasers firing. Shoot plasma going in now. What's the ship each? Shields are going down. Armor's going down. The armor's way up there. Armor's taking a pounding. Ooh, we're losing a few ships now. Oof. Oh, we could find a winner here, maybe. Maybe. Looks like it. Ooh. Look close. Those strike craft are just picking off the last few. Yeah, there we go. Close, very close. So there we go. We found a good design which can beat the carrier battleship. So that was anti-armor ship. So it was, I think it was just these guys. These guys just smashed through the armor, which was really good. Closing the medium range, good accuracy. Just able to smash them down, and they just had too much hull points and armor shields for the strike craft to kill them quick enough. So that was a good fight. So pretty close in the end. We did kill quite a few ships, and that is the benefit of armor and lasers. Is they do more. They kill more ships, so they can't fight again another day. That's what I like about lasers and plasma. I think I said armor, but yeah, lasers and plasma. Versus things like strike craft, missiles, other bypass weapons, disruptors, and things like that. They don't tend to kill as many ships, whereas the lasers and plasmas do, and you can see that there. We've lost 14 versus their 7, so 2-to-1 advantage in destroyed ships, even though their fleet not much of it left to engage. So that was a really good performance there. So that's a strong design to counter carrier battleships. So you don't need flak. Don't need flak and PD. You just need the right combination of firepower to beat some of these stronger ship designs. And that's with the Ascension perk as well, with this. So the only caveat here is if you can get the Rubicanator, and that can add another 15% to your Archaeotech ship damage. So you it won't be 33%, it'll be 48% if you're lucky enough to get the Rubicanator, which would be really good. So yeah, okay, that was interesting. I wonder how that would go with things like edicts and things like that, and leaders giving another 20% range. Might try that with some range leaders maybe and see how that goes. Okay, for this fight, it's the same fleet, but what I've done is I've turned on Supremacy, so we get all the buffs from Supremacy. It's basically a bit of fire rate. I've turned on Edicts, focusing crystals, reactive armor, volatile explosives, volatile ammunition, and shield boost. So that increases it basically adds about 20k all up to this fleet and 20k all up to this fleet. Maybe 20, maybe a bit more for this fleet. So we'll see if that makes any difference. We've added range leaders to both fleets, and because we're a Psionic race, we do have Psionic as well. So that's just the way it is. Can't get rid of that. So I just wanted to see if buffing everything makes any difference to this fleet combat at all. If it benefits this side or if it benefits this side. So it'll be interesting to see.
One of our stations is beset by enemies.
So they're already engaged, just left and engaged already. That's the difference in the range. 200, so that'd be what, 240 because 20%. So the strike craft have been able to engage earlier. Now they're firing away, long range giga cannons and that. Lost a ship each. And they've lost 3. It's sort of trending the same way. 4. Now they've closed range. They're just that plasma and lasers are just wrecking them. So if anything, it looks like it's benefiting this side. Yeah, the slaughter. There you go, bang. Just there you go. Killed my leader. I'm like, so you can just see there. Look how much that benefited the plasma and laser design with the Giga Cannon. So you can see how this combination works really well when you've got a side using a mix of shields and armor. And it's when you get this sort of combination of weapons, it does both. It smashes the shields down and is very effective against the armor. So yeah, very effective, very good. All right, let's test something else. So this design is very strong against carriers. Probably the best design against carriers presently I've seen. They get elite against these turbocharged carriers, I should say. But what I'm going to do, I'll try one more battle like this, because what I'm going to do is I'll actually make them super carriers. I'll put in a third carrier slot to make it a full carrier rather than an X slot weapon. We'll see if that changes anything or not. And I'll turn off all the edicts so we just get a standard fight. Alright, so what I've done for this fight is I've just tweaked the carrier design a little bit. What we've done is we're testing at a full carrier design now with the third ancient driller slot instead of the X slot. More PD here, which is not really that useful to us in this battle, so it's detracting a bit from our firepower. But we've got some more whirlwind missiles to compensate a little bit. So we're losing damage to shields, but we've got the third strike craft. So we're increasing our strike craft damage by 1/3 across the fleet. Everything else is the same except for this. We've gone, instead of stacking our shields, let's go for regen hull. So this gives us 30% daily hull regen. And when we've got armor of this amount, which it's gone up for some reason. Oh, that's because of the edicts. I've got the edicts on still. I thought I'll leave the edicts on, test it out. So the edicts have boosted it up. So daily hull regen, it was about the base one, what, 6,120. So that's what, 30%. So that's about 1,800 armor regen daily. That's huge amounts of armor we can regen. And our hull is, what's that, 15%. So that's 360. So that's probably about 500, 550 hull regen a day. So this makes this a strong regenerative fleet versus this fleet. We'll see if the plasma and lasers can overwhelm the regenerative ability of this fleet. So the shields now are still quite strong. You can see the shields, even though I got rid of the shield capacitors, our shields are still way up, and that's because of the edicts. And still 6,400, 6,500. So we've still got an advantage there. Let's just see, and you can see the firepower is nearly level. Let's see how this goes. See how much the extra strike craft makes up and the whole regen. We'll pay close attention to that. See how the regen affects the battle. Shields are going as quickly as expected. See watch the hull. See, we'll look to go down and then it goes back up. Going down a bit now. There. Nope, see, once they close, they just slaughter the carriers. Absolutely slaughter them. Yeah. Even worse than before, so, yeah. So this is a very good I should call it anti-carrier design, really, this one. So there you go. Someone's got carriers. Go after that. Plasma design. So I guess that's good. It shows you how effective plasma laser weapons are combined with the Giga Cannon, which a lot of people sort of don't like it much because it's, you know, it goes after shields and people don't tend to use too much shields. Whereas in this fight, if you have a bit of shields and armor, you know, I could stack more armor, but I don't think it's going to make a difference because they've got huge amounts of anti-armor weapons. So, right, what I might do, so we know that that fleet design is very effective against the carrier battleship. So let's see how effective the carriers are against fleets of smaller ships. Okay, so for this fight, we've got our destroyers that we used before, our Flak destroyers to try and kill these strike craft with artillery, because you know, artillery works pretty well against carriers. Just a mix of standard equipment and picket combat computers so we can get in between there. I'm sure we've got level 5 thrusters. Taking them out, but anyway. Then we've got our frigates with the Devastator torpedoes, which we got 80 of these frigates and disruptors, so they can close into close range and wreak some havoc. Armor and shields, because we didn't really have that much power to play with. Torpedo combat computers. So for this fight, it's not cloaked at all. This is just a standard engagement. So this fleet's going to try and close into range and do a lot of damage to this fleet. So that's 120 ships versus 20. That's a huge difference in number of ships versus this fleet, which we still have our extra ancient driller drones, and we've got the missiles and we've got extra flak there and that. So yeah, we're still running with our regenerative hull, no changes there. So we'll see how this pans out, see if the carriers can kill all of these ships before they get close enough, or these guys get overwhelmed.
Heretic fleet engaged.
Firing away at torpedoes now. Oof, losing some ships. Losing a bunch of ships too. Strike craft are doing alright. Shields are getting whittled away. Got 3 battleships. Not that many ships lost yet. Starting to lose some now. Let's check out the damage. Ancient driller drones are getting through. Devastator torps are getting through. Disruptors. Yeah. Good mix. Yeah, Cardi 160,000 damage to shields. Strikecraft just whittling away this fleet. Yeah, just too much has retreated. And this is what I'm saying with Flak and stuff, that it's just really hard. You distract so much from your firepower. They're just not doing enough damage. There you go. Easy victory for the carriers, and that was with 40 Flak destroyers. So that's 80 Flak batteries firing, and still we only killed 3 battleships. That was it. And that was using 80 frigates with torpedoes. They just could not do enough damage. And that's what I keep telling, that Flak and PD just seems to take away too much from the firepower. When you saw how it compared in the previous battles, and then I used the plasma battleships with all out offensive weaponry, and they just hammered the carriers. Just here, the carriers just slaughter the smaller ships of strike craft. That's why carriers are so versatile, and there's only a few niche builds which can counter it. So it makes it it makes carrier battleships and cruisers very effective. So you can see that very effective. Let's try the smaller fleet, and let's try it cloaked and see how it goes from there. So for this fight, we've got the same fleet we had last time, except we've added cloak, and here it is cloaked. Point blank range on top of the battleships to see if we can ambush these guys in a style of engagement, and see if this turns the tables on the carriers. Same weapons, nothing else has changed except the cloak for both the destroyers and the frigates versus our carrier battleships. Let's see how this pans out.
Heretic fleet engaged.
Lost a couple of battleships straight away. 3 down now. They've only lost 1 destroyer, 3 destroyers now. Let's just have a look at the opening damage. Yeah, Devastator torpedoes just smacked them straight away opening. Got through, look at that, bang. Only 60,000 damage. We're starting to lose quite a few smaller ships now, but we've lost 4 battleships already. So we've already done better than last game. 5. We're starting to inflict 6. So we're just whittling down the battleships now. This could go either way still. Each battleship you lose just reduces the number of strike craft that are able to whittle down this large amount of ships. Firepower's dropping quick now though. Oh, down to 13, lost 7. Yeah, it looks like just too many ships are retreating. You just see how strong carriers are against these smaller fleets, the strike craft. They're just so powerful, these ancient driller drones, against, you know, even being ambushed at point blank range with 80 cloaked frigates and 40 flak. Perhaps if you had all cloaked frigates, maybe you could possibly win that engagement, because if you have, say, 120 or 160 cloaked frigates. But also the thing is that the alloy cost, that small frigate fleet and destroyer fleet was about 7,000 or 8,000 alloys more than the battleship fleet, the carrier fleet, and the carriers still won the day. So it's not a good trade in alloys. Certainly using lots of smaller ships against carriers just doesn't seem to work. So I wouldn't tend to go down that path. Even adding in lots of flak to try and counter just doesn't seem to work very well at all. Similar to PD against missiles, it's not that effective. Now, there's some interesting designs you can use with smaller ships. Like you could go down the path of adding crystal hull plating to increase the hull points of the smaller ships like frigates and corvettes, even destroyers, and add in things like kinetic and plasma weapons and try and go after the carrier fleet that way. But I think building enough ships, it adds up to be more expensive than having a fleet of battleships or cruisers. But I'll give another smaller fleet a try. I'm going to actually try that with a fleet of destroyers and see if we can get all on offensive destroyers and see how we go. Okay, so for this fight, we've got 80 destroyers. Got kinetic batteries and flak batteries, so that's 80. So we've got 160 flak batteries and 80 kinetic batteries. So this is a lot of anti-strike craft firepower here. Mix of shields and armor, and I'm running shield hardening. We're going with artillery combat computers so we can stay at range, because these guys do armor penetration, so that will help to slow down the damage to our armor and hull, and hopefully give our guys more time for the kinetic batteries to just batter down this fleet at longer range, and we'll see how good we are. So it will be good against the shields, but we do have a lot of armor we need to get through as well. Hopefully kinetic battery DPS will be enough to whittle down this fleet, because we'll negate a lot of their damage with the flak batteries, hopefully. 160 flak batteries. Let's see how this pans out.
Heretic fleet engaged.
Only one loss so far. Lots of damage to the shields, as expected with kinetic batteries. See all the PD and everything firing as well. The PD does do damage. Lost 3 battleships. Only lost 3 destroyers, although I think quite a few have retreated. 5. There we go. We're inflicting quite a bit of damage on the carriers now. Looks like this is going to be a win. There we go. So there we go. We've got a small fleet which has done a lot of damage to the carrier fleet and beat that. We've only lost 4 ships for the destroyers. Now the only thing with this design is it's very niche. It's very programmed to defeat a carrier group. It's no good against pretty much anything else. Anything else is going to get flogged. So if you come up against enemies building fleets of carriers, or it's a multi-ship, multi-fleet engagement, they've got a few fleets of carriers in there. Some fleets like this will help, although they are more expensive than building a carrier fleet. It's about, I think, 5,000 alloys more than building a carrier fleet, but we only took 4 losses, and the carrier fleet lost 9 battleships. Or it was 20, wasn't 21. I don't know why it keeps doing that. So that was very, very cost efficient, very effective. So just keep in mind, this is not a very versatile design. Where the carriers are pretty versatile, the enemy really has to change into a specific design for that. So we've seen how a battleship design can counter the carrier battleship. We've seen how a destroyer fleet can counter it. You've seen how ineffective Flak is, and that's what I've been talking about. So I know that should, hopefully, the people who are saying that Flak is really good. In some instances, it's not very effective. This design, it is double Flak and the kinetic battery with 80 destroyers. Just bear in mind, this is a very niche design, and it only works if against carrier battleships. If someone's coming at all carrier battleships, if someone's got a mix of carrier battleships, other type of battleships, cruisers, then this fleet is sayonara. So just keep that in mind, and that's generally why Flak, it's just not that good. I'd much rather you spend your alloys on ship designs like that, plasma, laser, kinetic, was it the X-Slot, the Giga Cannon? Spend your alloys on that, or a version of that like for cruisers. You can do that, kinetic artilleries and plasma and laser on cruisers as well to act as your shields, or even on destroyers as well. You can do that, and a mix of destroyers, cruisers, and then your battleships. That would be far more effective, and it's going to be far more effective and easier, cheaper to redesign if you want to put in, some extra kinetic if someone's loading up on shields, to a far more versatile design than designs like this. This is a design but just to show you that, yeah, okay, this design can beat carrier battleships, but pretty much nothing else. And it's a huge amount of alloys you spent there for that fleet, and then it's not very good against anything else. So just keep that in mind if you're playing player versus player, particularly because other players will make mincemeat of this design. If they see that you're building this, it's going to be very easy to counter that. Alright, so send me some comments. I'm going to I'll test some more battleships and cruiser designs probably in my next few videos, testing out some of the other weapons and going from there. So this is more just, I just wanted to test out the battleship carriers and see how good they are. And they're very versatile, very good, but we found some counters to it. I really like that battleship counter to it. I liked it, and I like it because it shows how good plasma and laser can be, plus the Giga Cannon, which not many people like to use the Giga Cannon, and you just kicks the crap out of carrier battleships. Alright, I'll end the video here, and I'll see you guys next time.